"3 o'clock in the morning is an awfully strange time to go shopping. You are aware that the sign on the door says that we're closed?" "Oh, evidently not, given it was unlocked and yet you still chose to break the window to gain entrance to my property. Tell me, what is it you came in to take? Or did you just want to have a private browse?" "Don't try and leave. I'm not holding this cane because I can't walk. Look at you. Scruffy, dirty, on the wrong side of the law. A properly lost soul. Yes. There used to be a woman who would look out for people like you, but, well, she's long gone now. Would you like to hear about her? If you humour me, perhaps there won't be a need to call the police." "Ah, you would? Well, in that case, have a seat, and I'll tell you the tale of Jinny Bingham." Jinny was born around 1600 to a brickmaker and his wife. As a youngster, she would travel around the country to wherever her father's work would take them, allowing her to experience all types of people and ways of life. At the age of 16, she met a boy known as Gypsy George, and soon after fell pregnant. The couple then lived together in a small cottage outside of Kentish Town. So far, it seems like a fairly idyllic existence, doesn't it? However, it was around this point when things took a turn for the worse. George was convicted of stealing sheep, and, after being found guilty at the Old Bailey, was hanged for his crimes. In her misery, and I assume due to judgment crowded by grief, Jinny started having relations with a drunkard named Darby. These relations were wrought with violence. The couple would fight and, well, Jinny would be beaten. Then, one day, after she discussed the matter with her mother, Darby simply disappeared. No one knew what happened to him and, well, no one really seemed to care, as no official inquest followed. Then again, what is there to miss about a violent drunk? Would you mind covering the hole you made in my window with this? I don't particularly want a breeze blowing through. That's better. Where were we? Yes, the disappearance. Although life was on a momentary upturn for Jinny, this was soon to change. You see, her parents were accused of causing the death of a young girl by witchcraft. For this crime, they were both hanged. Whether they were guilty or not, I cannot say, but what I do know is that out of loneliness, Jinny found herself in the arms of another ill-suited man who went by the name of Pitcher. Again, the relationship was marred with arguments, and in order to take shelter from the abuse Jinny would shout at him, Pitcher would often seek refuge in the oven of the house. A strange hiding place, and one that would eventually lead to his demise. For one day, his charred remains were found in that very oven. Murder charges were brought against Jinny, but after a testimony from a reputable source that Pitcher would regularly take shelter in that same oven, she was acquitted. Quite the accident, isn't it? However, while the law had no issue with her, the local people did. And this was how she earned the name of Mother Damnable, or the Shrew of Kentish Town. And from this point on, she became a recluse. Any dealings she had were at night, and no one knew who these dealings were with. Around the 1640s, another man entered Jinny's life. An unknown man. Some say that he was a wealthy refugee from the English Civil War who would cover Jinny's expenses in exchange for a safe and isolated place to stay. He stayed for years, and arguments were frequently overheard by passing villagers who had no choice but to walk by the cottage on their travels. This was until one day no more arguments were heard. Perhaps, unsurprisingly, the mysterious man was found dead. The locals suspected that Jinny had poisoned him, but there was no evidence of this at the inquest that followed. From then on, Jinny was self-sufficient, dealing with strange visitors in the night, accompanied only by a black cat. Who knows why they went to the cottage? Perhaps they desired their fortunes read, to deal in other arcane matters, or simply for alternative medicine that she is rumoured to have made. It was around the 1680s when she died. We can only estimate, as it took the wary villagers some time to build up the courage to enter the cottage. When they eventually did find her, she was sat in her chair, completely rigid, a pot laid out on the table in front of her. The villagers then made her cat drink the liquid inside the pot, and all of its hair fell out. Soon after, it lay dead at its master's feet. Some say that as she lay in that chair, the devil himself stood watching over her. It's said that she haunts the pub that now stands where her cottage used to be. If you did want to visit her, I could always tell you which one. Well, that concludes the tale of Jinny Bingham. Sorry, what was that? Oh, what happened to the child? My, you actually were paying attention. It's a good question. The accounts of her later life never describe her child, so it's probably safe to assume he perished young. Then again, who knows? She led such a private life, it's impossible to say. Perhaps she was given to an orphanage, or maybe was taken in by a kind foster family, far from the superstitious locals that berated and feared Jinny. It's possible that he grew up and opened a shop. However, we will never truly know. Funny you should happen by tonight, of all nights. I have just started the process of finding a new assistant. You wouldn't like the job, would you? Clearly, you have at least some interest in matters such as this. No? Well, that is a shame. It's always easier when they comply.